You are listening to If These Woods Could Talk, produced by the Rhinelander District Library. If these woods could talk, they might say, moo. Thanks for that, Doug. Last month I got to go to the Demmer Memorial Library in Three Lakes to participate in their History Digitization Day. While I was there, I wrangled a few stories out of lifelong Three Lakes resident Bruce Brewster and learned what a cow pass is. Now, aren't you curious too?
If these words could talk, would you sit and listen to the tales of those who came before us in the virgin pines with the river glistening? Sit on back, friendless, share some stories about butterflies, days gone by on the sunset hill of glory.
Right, Bruce, is it?
Yeah, Bruce Brewster.
I'm going to push this a little closer to you.
Okay.
And, how long have you been, how long back does your family go in Three Lakes?
1906, 1903, I think. 1903 or 1906.
Okay.
My granddad came into the country from Tustin, Wisconsin. My great-granddad came from New York and went down to, down near Madison. What is that? No, it wasn't Dane County. Anyway, down, and then came back up to Waushara County.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just as the state was forming. Well, actually, it was before the state, the territory. That was in. If I know I was doing this, I brought my notes.
Yeah, sure.
See, I think they came in about 1850 or 1852
Okay.
into central Wisconsin, and then had my great grandfather, and then they had the family down there. And then when my grandfather was early teens and left school, then he ran steamboats on Lake Poygan down to Fond du Lac and back, and got a certificate for steam boilers. Anyway, then a family friend and my great-great-grandfather came up here to have a sawmill, and down by Spirit Lake, and they ran the sawmill, and I think that was from around 1906 or 1906, and then my granddad bought them out, and they went back to Tustin, and my granddad stayed here with my great-granddad, and then they ran the mill.
Mm-hmm.
But my granddad bought it, but they wouldn't sell the land, they only sold the mill. So he moved it up closer to town by Maple Lake, and that's where they built the farm. And my grandmother was a farmer from also down in Waushara County. And after he got working up here, he went down and brought her back up here, and they got married. And then they built the farm, which is on by 32 and 45 at the intersection near the big barn just coming into town.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where she acquired land. She was a farmer, and Granddad, he farmed, but he did everything he could do to get off the farm.
Okay.
So originally, first parcel of land, her uncle from also down Waushara County financed the first purchase of land for them, and then she kept buying land left and right as it came available, and enlarged the farm. They had a dairy over there, and of course Granddad worked the farm and built the big barn. And there's an article from 1917, I think they built the barn, and a big write-up in the Rhinelander paper about that. Let's see, then, but I said, Granddad Dell, he was into everything he could besides farming, but they managed to get the different machinery, and they would go around harvesting, threshing machine and stuff, harvesting for the smaller subsistence farmers they couldn't afford, and then would do it for either for a share of the crop or for cash and that. And so then he enlarged the farm program in order to, with the different machinery and stuff, and got into a lot of stuff. Then they did dairy cows and had a little creamery there, and they made some cheese and some ice cream, and my grandmother had the store there, and a lot of the old-time, not the residents, the tourists or people that came up here had summer homes. They would come into town, and they would stop in at the store and get ice cream. And but anyway, Granddad say he did these other things to get off the farm, and one of the things he did, they made ice. Went out to Butternut Lake. There was a big resort out there, Rasmussen's Resort, and cut ice and put up in the ice house for their summer use and other places. And he made specialized ice machinery. The guys used to pick the ice up with tongs when they cut out of the lake. And he said, this is too much work, so he made a conveyor that would go down right in the water and bring the ice up to the sleigh level. And then later it was the trucks, but they did it with horses and sleighs. Remember the story my dad telling, coming in from out there one night. They came in when the job was done, and they came in with the horses and the sleighs, and they were all riding, and a pack of wolves surrounded them, and they could hear them howling to the left, howling to the right, and howling from, and the horses just got so upset, all frothed up, and they just had to hold the horses back, and I don't know how many miles they figured they followed them, but when they got home back here in town, then they had to wipe the horses down and cover them with blankets. Of course, it was cold winter, but they never, I don't know if they saw the wolves, but they kept hearing them left and right and in front and back, and they followed them all the way, quite a ways into town anyway.
Nerve-wracking.
And he told the story while they were out there doing ice one time. For Christmas, they got oranges, which, of course, up here at that time was rare to get fresh fruit like that. And he took his orange with him, and he had it on the sleigh, and they were sitting eating lunch, and it dropped off, hit the ground, and shattered. It had frozen solid.
It's a cold
It was
orange.
that cold. Let's see, then Granddad, shortly after that, he was working somewhere. He met a guy that had a well drilling rig and wanted to sell it. And that's, that might be interesting. So he bought it and worked with a guy for just a short period of time, show him how to run the thing. And then for years they were drilling wells. Of course, they were just the 4-inch casings and threaded pipe and stuff, and would drive the wells. And once they got the well, then after a while, the people, well, now we got a well, we got water, now we want plumbing. So then my dad decided to learn about plumbing, and he hired on with I don't know if that was Frank Johnson, but anyway, somebody here in town that had experience and worked with him, and that's how he got his start in plumbing and started the plumbing business, which then I took over.
Okay.
On the other side of my family, the Cunninghams, my granddad worked a number of different jobs, but ended up, he was originally from Wausau, and worked with the railroad down there as a telegraph operator. And then came into Antigo. They moved to Antigo, and that's where my mom was born. And then they moved up here. It must have been about 19, before 1920 anyway. I think she was 3 years old. So, yeah, it would have been about right around 1920. And he worked for the Thunder Lake Narrow Gauge. And they had a railroad head and a store, supply depot, and a store out on Highway 32, the Thunder Lake store. And then he would dispatch in and out the trains going to Rhinelander, and they would bring supplies for the lumberjacks and then for the store. And at first it was telegraph, then they had a telephone line, their private line along the tracks, which was terrible. He said he'd rather have done it with telegraph because they were hollering and couldn't hear what the order was and one thing.
Sure.
So he lived out there for quite a few years, and then when the Thunder Lake closed, then he worked for the Forest Service for a number of years until he retired. What else he did? Oh, and he, when he was living out there, they had a fox farm. He and a great uncle from Antigo, they set up, and that was when furs were popular for ladies' clothes and stuff and shawls, and they raised different fox and had a few silver fox, which were very expensive, and so they ran the fox farm, and I just barely remember that as a young child when I was first in grade school, 6, 7 years old, something.
Did you name them? Did you name them?
No, they would never let us out with them because, well, most of the time we were out there is when they had kits, and they said that if the mothers got disturbed, they would actually kill the kits.
Oh, whoa.
So we were told we could see them across the yard and in the fence, but we couldn't go play with them.
Sure.
And then when the fur business dropped out, and then for a few years they raised chickens. And there was a restaurant out there, it's called Chicken in the Woods on 32 and Chicken in the Woods Road, and that was their specialty. And they thought, well, they could sell chickens, and there was a good market for it. So they raised chickens, and they had the pens and stuff from the fox, so they raised the chickens. Except everybody thought that was a good idea, and so they had all these chickens, and then they couldn't sell them. So then whole family had chickens.
Sorry, we've got hens in the fox house.
No, well, yeah, hens in the fox house. Fox are long gone, but yes. So they raised the chickens and then couldn't sell the chickens. Of course, they had this big walk-in freezer that when they would kill the fox, then they would freeze them and then skin them afterwards. But anyway, so they had this walk-in freezer and filled it with chickens. And so instead of a chicken in every pot, we had chicken every Sunday, and we had chicken every Wednesday, and we had chicken and chicken and chicken and chicken. So it was for years, what's for dinner? Chicken again? But I remember in that freezer, then it was walk-in, and I remember going in there one time, and there was a deer and a bear that somebody had hunted and brought in there to store. Then then when they retired, they actually ended up buying land on Maple Lake from my grandmother. My granddad was dead by then, but they bought 300 feet on Maple Lake frontage, and that was very deep back to Highway X, and they paid $15 per front foot. Go to a real estate agent and ask what they would pay for that today.
Foot.
per foot, $15, and that was, I say, it was very deep.
Wow.
So I don't know how many acres that ended up, but in other words, it wasn't just this little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's see what else. Well, as far as my dad went, he got into the plumbing, but he did a lot of other stuff because it was seasonal type stuff here. And he did some carpenter work, built a couple of additions. In fact, a friend I was just talking to on Preacher's Point, they bought a house up there in 1951. They didn't have electricity out there yet. And then when they got electricity in, he used to tell me a story how he would come up from Milwaukee to work on the house, and he burned out 3 motors on his table saw building the house because the voltage would vary and hard on the motors. And they had to rebuild the motor every winter. And so then, my dad didn't have a basement, but it was would make a walkout. So my dad built a thing and used an old, they called it a slusher. It was like a wheelbarrow bucket that would dig down in, and it was pulled by and they had a winch out by the lake, and they go down there and dig this basement out with a slusher. And then he got into another job, like my granddad, pile driving. Somebody had an old pile driver, which was similar to the well drill, and so he got that and rebuilt that, and had this big, I don't know, it was like an 800-pound hammer or whatever. They'd pull it up and drop on these wood piling, and they'd go out on the ice and cut holes on the ice, and then drive these wood trees down in the ground up to 30 feet. They drive them until they get solid ground. And for boathouses and piers, permanent piers. And did that for a couple of years, and then he got a big old tandem 4-wheel drive military dump truck and rebuilt this and put it on there. And I was working with him for a couple of years while we did that. And so we drive the piling. And of course, they have to go out and shovel snow off, plow the snow off. He had made a temporary plow or a handmade plow to put on this truck and go out a week ahead of time and push the snow away so the ice would freeze solid and deep.
Sure.
And then, of course, where it froze too deep and the water would go down, they not drain, but lower the water level in the chain. So then where we wanted the piling, it might not be ice there. We have to go out there and make charcoal fires in a square or circle, bit by bit, and dig down through the frost to get a starting hole to run the piling down. Then, other than that, I took over the plumbing business from my dad.
Was it always Brewster Plumbing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And, actually we incorporated in 1980 just as a way for me to take over, because and then it was trading stock and tax-wise. Otherwise, I would have to get an inventory and pay tax on all the equipment, all the supplies, the trucks and whatnot. And as they just incorporated, so that worked. So I ran that until I retired a couple of years ago.
All right.
So then I've been retired for 2 years, and I've had the honey-do list to keep me busy. And then all of a sudden, my daughter bought the old family house and rebuilding it. So now I've got this daddy-do list that is a lot longer than any honey-do list.
Whoa. Never ends.
So
That's cool.
that's,
So when we were talking about the earlier on and buying the land and just kind of
Right.
being piecemeal of this property, do you know about how big that got by the end?
I think close to 80 acres.
Okay.
And then they started selling it off. After my granddad died, then my grandmother ran the farm. But I said on low, just kind of went slower and slower and slower. And so they had originally, well, it was never big. I think they had about 25 milking cows at the peak. And it never had any automated. It was all hand milking.
Yeah.
But and she ran that down. So, and when I helped milking, she was down to about 6 milk cows. And then she raised beef cows and well, I remember the chickens and the pigs, the guinea hen and stuff. But then she started selling off, well, actually the first sale was to the state to put, or the federal government to put Highway 45. And it used to be Old 26 was the road that came up. And of course that was the one that made these farmer corners, they call them, every 40. It went straight, curved, right angle and went straight. And of course when they made a federal highway, then they made the big curves and stuff. So they made by the, well, they call it the Triangle Motel now, and there was a gas station in there. Milwaukee Petroleum bought a piece, but the state had bought the big curve, and so then that was basically all that she sold, other than she sold a piece to my dad. And then after she died, my dad and aunt and uncles started parceling it off and selling pieces. But she had sold I don't know what acres was, but they sold 2 pieces to the cemetery to expand the Three Lakes Cemetery. And she sold the first section, I believe. And then the second section was added to that. And then they sold a piece to the Faith Lutheran Church, and then she sold a piece to the, I shouldn't say she did, the heir sold a piece to the Three Lakes Evangelical Church, and then there have been other parcels sold off to residents on down to Highway X, down to Maple Lake Road.
So, one other question. What's this cow push?
Oh, Cow Pass.
Cow Pass, yes.
Oh, it's an underpass, and what happened when they put this Highway 45, and the state put it in, of course they were cutting off farmers from going through the middle of their land. And so they had the dairy land, so they had cows on one side of the road and the other side of the road. And so rather than have them herd cows across the busy highway, then they built well, it's more than a glorified culvert. It was, you could just stand in it, like 6 foot high, and I think it was 36 inches wide. They made it narrow so the cows going through couldn't turn around.
Okay.
They'd have to, otherwise you get a herd of cows going through and one would try to turn around and you get them stuck
Sure.
in the middle there.
Single file.
Yeah, and that was in there, and there were 2 more very close down 45. I think one was for the Olkowski farm, and I don't know if it was the Rozeski farm. Anyway, within a couple of miles, there were 2 more. When they rebuilt Highway 45 a number of years ago, they closed 2 of them, but the one that for the Brewster farm, they left that because at that time the cross-country ski class or kids from school were using that to go down to Maple Lake. So they'd shovel snow in there and they could go under the road
Yeah.
without crossing the road. And then this last time, just a couple of years ago, when they rebuilt this end of the road, they tore it out and put in like a 3-foot culvert just to handle the water. And so, I say a couple of years ago, I took my grandson over there and we took pictures to show him where it was and what it was like. And then the next day or 2, they tore it all up.
Really close one.
Yeah. But, yeah, so that was a couple months ago, the Historical Society, somebody asked what a cow pass was. We took them over there and showed them where it was and showed them where the other 2 were. But they were all now buried and just culverts is replaced for water.
Cool.
Other than that, I was born here, and I tell people I've worked here all my life. I worked when I was in school. I worked all the time in Red Owl store, grocery store, stocking shelves, making deliveries and whatever. So I lived here. I resided here my whole life. I don't know if I ever lived here. I didn't go water skiing. I didn't go fishing. I didn't.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, Chance, you've got a cow impression you do?
no, other than moving on.
Sounds good. Thanks for checking out If These Woods Could Talk, produced by the Rhinelander District Library. Special thanks to Demmer Memorial Library for including me in History Digitization Day, and also to Captain Doug for talking like a cow. To find out how to record your story, reach out to the Rhinelander District Library.
So
Thank
let
you.
me get a drink first.
Yeah.
We're going to get the photo albums. Did you have fun?
I had fun. I scared him.
How did you scare him?
Well, we got to the end. I asked if I can put it on our podcast.
Oh, you should. You said yes, right?
He said he needed a drink first. I don't know if he's going down the
Got
road.
water there.